I've been reviewing the history of armed rebellion, and it appears that terrorism is an effective way to promote political change.
Yes, it can be. But I have never subscribed to the theory that political power flows from the battle of a gun.
Yet there are numerous examples when it was successful. The independence of the Mexican state from Spain, the Irish unification of 2024, and the Kenzie Rebellion.
Yes, I'm aware of them.
Then would it be accurate to say that terrorism is acceptable when all options for peaceful settlement have been foreclosed?
Hello everyone, welcome back to Fully Functional, a TNG podcast. I'm Maggie, joined by Jeff and Dory.
Yo!
Jeff and I are huge Star Trek nerds, Dory's a Star Trek novice, and we are taking her on our first journey through Star Trek The Next Generation. Today we'll be discussing the Season 3 episode, The High Ground. Original air date January 27th, 1990. And as always, we'll take it to Dory for the recap.
Okay. Bear with me, because I have 5 pages of notes, and it's a mess.
I was going to say the recap can really just be summed up with, terrorism's bad, okay?
Okay, terrorism's bad, okay? All right, we're done. Next.
Next episode.
Okay. So the gang, we're on our way to Urtia 4 to deliver medical supplies because they have been in like a civil war with like the, how do you pronounce the other group's name? I've heard it 1,000 times and yet I keep forgetting. The Enstadas?
I forget.
The other, let's just call them the Rebels. That's what we'll do.
Yeah.
So we're going to go real Star Wars on this recap because there's also a character whose name I just started writing, Kylo Ren.
He is pretty dramatic.
Well, it's because, I'll get to this guy in a minute. Okay, so the rebels are doing terrorist attacks because they want independence, and the other guys are like, how about no? And so Dr. C, Worf, and Data are on the planet. Worf and Dr. C look like they were having like lunch or something. Truly, to be a fly on the wall in that conversation, or just to be part of that conversation. That's truly the dream. I want to go for lunch with Worf and Dr. C. And then Dr. C is like, waiter, and then there's an explosion. So Dr. C, of course, the absolute badass she is, she just like jumps into action, runs over for the people that's been injured to try to facilitate some treatment. I almost said healthcare. That I don't think that's the right way to just describe that. First aid. That's what I'm. First aid. Yes. But of course, Worf and Data are like, we really need to like get you out of here. This is like not safe. And she's like, no, it's cool. Like, I really need to treat these people. And they're like, the doctors are on the way. And she's like, no, but they're not here now. So I'm here now and I need to treat them. And then the police bust in. And then this guy appears and just grabs Dr. C and is like, bye. And then, so Dr. C has now been kidnapped by the rebels in their like cave dwelling, and we meet Chiral Finn, in which I immediately, not on purpose, but just every time I wrote a note about him, I just kept writing Kylo. So I'm just gonna call him Kylo Ren because why not?
Yeah.
At this point, you know who I'm talking about. The Chiral Finn, also because Finn is in Star Wars too.
He's like a reverse Kylo, because he like Kylo Ren's part of the Empire and this guy's on the Rebellion.
Yeah. So
reverse Kylo.
I was just gonna say Kylo reverse.
Oh.
Yeah, we're just gonna call him Kylo because I wrote it all in my notes. So if I look in my notes, it's just gonna say Kylo a bunch of times. So yeah. Okay, so he's like offering her food and she's like, no, she doesn't say a word, which truly, I love Dr. C so much. She's just sitting there staring at him. And then he's like offering her food, but then he like puts his fingers in her food and then is like, you sure you don't want food? And I'm like, you just put your hands in it. Why would she want your food? She does take it. But then I was like,
don't eat that.
I was like, Dr. C, of all people, like germs. But you know what? She's got her reasons. It did look like a clump of bacon bits. That's on this plate. So to be fair, if there was a clump of bacon bits, would I refuse that? I don't know. Depends where they're from.
If they're like actual bacon or like the fake bacon bits.
Yeah, there's like really good bacon bits that they sell at Costco. I ordered them online once. It was $20. Worth it.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, you don't have to be a member. I'm not a member, and I ordered it online. It just,
Nice.
oh my God, they're delicious. Anyways.
You know how messed up store bacon bits are? They're vegan.
Oh.
Yeah.
That's
Well,
amazing.
That should be illegal. No, I'm kidding.
Or they're at least vegetarian. I'm not sure if they're vegan, but yeah, they contain no actual meat in it.
Oh, that's wild.
Yeah.
Huh. Then they should just be fake meat bits.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So then Wes, they're like, Wes, your mom's been kidnapped. And he's like, I'd like to go down with the away team. And I was like, absolutely not, Wes. That is a bad idea on 1,000 levels. Fortunately, Wes is a good boy. And he's like, okay, yes, I will stay here. And I was like, thank you for not, doing something stupid.
Yeah.
So I wrote in my notes. Wes, PICARD will get your hot mom back. Okay, so it turns out like these terrorists have like some weapon that like can't be detected. And so, okay, then the head of the cops is someone who like I don't think they say her name once. So I went to IMDb to look it up, and it's like Alexana Davos or something.
Oh, was she in Babylon 5 as well?
I have no idea.
Okay.
I just wanted to. I didn't go to her page. I just went to the IMDb page for this particular episode. I didn't go past that. So yeah, we'll call her Devos because she shows up a lot in this episode. So she's like, hey, listen, I know we're like not part of the Federation, but if you totally want to lend us some of your high-tech weapons so we can fight the terrorists, that would be really great. And Riker is like, no.
Yeah.
Like, nice try, but no. So Kylo Ren, God, he's got a lot of good lines in this episode, if I'm going to be honest. He's got like a lot of good exchanges. So at one point, okay, so this is when he's like trying to get her to eat, and he's like, okay, now eat something. What's the point of not eating? You're the only one who suffers. Do I look like it's bothering me? And then she just stares at him, and then he goes, okay, it's bothering me. And then he's like, basically like some of his stuff I couldn't stop laughing at, which is like not what they're going for, but he was basically like, how can the Enterprise bring medical supplies to treat the people that I've hurt personally?
Yeah.
It's like, what? What are you talking about? So Davos was like, she was pretty moderate apparently before like she started this job, but then like, yeah, she saw a bunch of stuff. People died, and now she's like, yeah, let's get them all. Let's get them all. And her very sparkly suspenders was incredibly distracting. Yeah, the police uniform was a choice.
Yeah.
There was some interesting choices made on that uniform. Oh yeah, so then Dr. C is basically there to treat. So like, okay, this weapon that they have that basically like transport them into like dimensional jumps or whatever, so they can just like pop here and there real quick without detection. It's like really damaging these people. Like every time they jump, it like worsens their health. So Dr. C was brought in to like treat these people, and she's like, yeah, like no, I just have to make these people comfortable. They die. Like he's like, can't do anything to fix it. She's like, yeah, fucking stop doing it.
Yeah.
So yeah, now they're like, DNA is like warped, and yeah, it's just it's just so funny that he brought her in to fix something that, like, she's like, literally just stop. That will just stop this. And he's like, no, that's not the answer I want. Therefore, you're, like, still my hostage.
Yeah.
Oh, Kylo Ren. Oh, so then Geordi is able to, like, detect a, like, some kind of, like, nuclear vibration during, like, the terrorist movements. I don't know, it's like the line they have in the show episode. And Wes is able to figure out this, like, Elway theorem, which is basically, I guess, how they made this weapon, which I believe is called the inverter. But Data's like, that they abandoned this in the 23rd century. And it's like, lols. Well, they did, but now it's back.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yes. And also, Kylo Ren likes to draw. Some interesting drawing choices, too. He shows Dr. C what he's drawing, which is, like, holding like two hands, like holding hands, and he's really, like, going to town on the fingernails.
Mm-hmm.
And Dr. C is like, you should be drawing, not killing people. And then Kylo's like, I can do both.
Yeah.
And then they have this weird conversation of, like, he thinks he's the George Washington of this planet, of, like, yeah, we need our independence. And it's like, hey, yeah, I can get behind that. But that he's like, yeah, it's stupid. Honestly, kind of a random thing. But there's so many lines in this episode that I want to get to later. I won't do the whole thing. Like, I won't do them during this recap. Okay, so then, like, Riker and Devos, like, interview the waiter who was at the restaurant at the beginning, and they're like, we know you're part of the rebellion, whatever, you're a terrorist. And then Riker at this point is just fucking over it. Mm-hmm. And he's just like, listen, bro, I know you have her. I know, just, like, tell your, like, group that, like, I will listen to your terms. We just want her back. Like, I don't give a shit past that. And somehow that, like, gets back to Kylo as, like, they're arresting everybody. They don't care. They're just, like, I don't know. It gets all, like, it's the worst game of broken telephone, even though only one person is part of this broken telephone. Yeah.
Can his character name be Purple Monkey Dishwasher from now on?
Sure. The waiter? Do we even see the waiter again?
Well, when he delivers the message to Kylo Ren, that's it.
Oh, yeah. Okay. So, yeah, Purple Monkey Dishwasher gives the wrong information to Kylo Ren. Took me a second to remember all those words. So then, like, okay, Data has, like, an interesting conversation with Picard about, like, violence, and when things, like, escalate to violence, is that really, like, the way that change happens? And it's like, yeah, kinda.
Yeah.
But it is an interesting conversation. Yeah, I'll do that later too. So Kylo doesn't want Dr. C to leave because he just wants to waste, honestly, he just wants to fucking waste her time. He likes her and he's just wasting her time at this point.
Mm-hmm.
So then she's like, I have a son. And he's like, oh, is he on the Enterprise? And she's like, wait, what? And he's like, well, let's just say we're about to fucking bomb the Enterprise. And Dr. C's like, what the fuck?
Because that's how to get her on your side.
Yeah, that's definitely a way to convince someone to do your bidding, is tell them you're gonna fucking murder their son. So yeah, so then the rebels, like, start appearing on the Enterprise, and they really go to town just killing people real quick and, like, harming people. And then they fucking get to engineering. Someone shoots at Geordi, and in my notes I just wrote right to jail.
Didn't he do the best jump in history, though?
The jump was gorgeous. 10 out of 10. Gold medal in gymnastics. But how dare they shoot at Geordi? And then, they decide, it'd be a great idea. Let's fucking get to the bridge. So Kylo Ren and this other lady appear on the bridge. Picard just goes for Kylo Ren. And this bitch shoots Worf. And I had to pause to be like, no. And I just wrote bitch in my
No,
notes.
my Widow Worfy.
I love Worf, and she's gonna shoot Worf and get away with it? Absolutely not. No, I love Worf. I'm so happy he was okay. But that was like, for a moment, my heart was like, oh, fuck everybody. Worf better be fine. Yeah, he was fine. He like helps at the away team at the end. So thank you, future medical technology. Oh yeah, then they plant like this disc thing in engineering, and Geordi's able to like get it off, and then they like transport it outside the ship and it explodes. So yeah, that saves a lot of people. Oh my god, they also mentioned doing a saucer separation. I got so excited, but it didn't happen. They really got my hopes up, and that's too bad. But at the very least, everybody, well, okay, not everybody lived, but the ship didn't explode.
Everybody important lived.
Oh, yeah. So Kylo then decides, you know what my best move is? Let's fucking kidnap Picard now. So then we, I wrote, so Kylo's kidnapped Picard, and I just wrote, oh, Riker's going to be so mad. So then Picard is reunited with Beverly, and it's cute. And oh, Picard gives Wes credit, and it actually doesn't seem forced for once.
Aww.
He's like, he did extraordinarily well or something. Well, he calls him extraordinary or something, and that like he's the reason they're able to like figure out what this like weapon thing is. And oh, it was cute. It didn't feel so like it was nice. Like, good job, Wes. We're proud. And then Dr. C is like, yeah, he's surrounded by good role models. Picard, that's you. Oh boy. And then of course, God forbid they don't have adorable banter. Then they like argue for a second about like she's like, oh, I guess I should have like beamed up at the beginning, and he's like, yeah, I should have just beamed you up, and she's like, without my consent. And then they like argue, and it's cute and it's like flirty, and I'm like, ha 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 ha. Oh yeah, and then so she also like kind of tries to get Picard to like understand a little bit of like the rebels' perspective, and then he's basically like, Beverly, are you sure you're not Stockholm syndrome right now?
Yeah.
She's like, no, like I would not. Dr. C doesn't seem like easily convinced into something that she like can't, like I don't think she's easily like can be easily swayed.
Yeah.
Unless she like listens to this and actually believes, okay, that makes sense. Oh yeah, so then like Kylo basically calls out the Federation, and he like wants to use the Federation to like basically get what he wants, because if the Federation is involved because they have Picard on as a hostage, then like they come in, and then like it's probably a better chance that like he can get what he wants for his people if the Federation is like moderating with the other guys as well. Which is like kind of, I get the plan. It's not like the worst plan. However, keeping Picard as a hostage is a bad plan.
Yeah. Like,
I do get the like motivations there. Like, it does technically, I guess, make sense-ish. But then he like appears to Troy on the ship, and he's like, here's my demands, boy. And she's just like, wait, what? Yeah, he just wants like nobody to show up into the planet, and has 12 hours. This is immediately forgotten about. Oh yeah, so then like they just come up with the plan of, okay, here's how we're going to infiltrate the hideout. It's like underground, so they obviously have fake life, so we're going to like blow out the generator, and in the dark just like rescue Beverly and Picard. Oh yeah, so then Kylo Ren is like argues with Dr. C, because she's like, you're an asshole and you're using fear as like a, you know, control tactic. And he's like, I don't want you to fear me. Here's a bunch of sketches that I took of you that I like drew without you knowing. I hope that's not creepy. And then oh yeah, so okay, so then the away team, which is the recovered Worf, Riker, Davos, and like a few cops, they like get down there, blow up the generator. Oh, but right before it happens, Dr. C is sitting with Picard, and she's like, listen, if this goes south, there's some things I got to get off my chest. And I'm like, yes, let's do it. Confess, spill your guts. I want to hear whatever this is. And then the lights go off, and I was like, well, fuck, you guys couldn't wait like a second like a minute later to like for this fucking rescue. But
they gotta tease us.
Yeah, but this is 3 seasons of teasing. Although, to be fair, she wasn't in season 2, so I guess this makes sense. We have to be reminded, because there hasn't really been a lot of like Picard Beverly stuff this season.
Yeah.
So I'd like it to be ramped up, please and thank you.
Yeah, about that.
Oh yeah, so then like so then Kylo Ren is like ready to shoot Picard, and then Davos shoots him, and then just like, well, I guess rip, I guess. So he's like dead on the floor. And then and then the little boy from earlier who was helping Dr. C with like, I don't know, keep making the people comfortable while they die. Because it's funny, earlier she's like, you could be a doctor when you're older. She's like, if you live to be older. I'm like, oh, damn. The funny thing is, I said that, and then she said that, and I was like, damn, Dr. C.
Yeah.
I was kind of joking, but you said it. So then she's like, no more killing, and he puts his gun down, and then they bring her back up and up to the bridge, and her and Wes just stand and stare at each other for like a good second. And then she goes down and gives him a hug. And I just was like, Wesley Crusher, that's not even my mother. But if she walked through those doors, I would push everybody aside and go run to hug her. Be like, you made it. I'm so happy you're okay. And he just stands there. He's like, oh, hey, Mom. You're back from your hostage situation. I'm glad you made it. I'm like, I would have pushed through everybody. Except, well, like a little... If I had to get by Worf, I would give him like a little brush. But like I'd knock people down if I had to. Yeah. To go give Crusher a hug. But no, Wes is pretty chill. He's like, welcome back from your kidnapping, Mom. Good to see you. Yeah, so then all's well that ends well-ish? Not at all.
Yeah.
This is a long recap. This is a lot in this episode. There's just
a lot
to
say. Which is weird because technically not a lot is happening because there's so much talking and grandstanding going on.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Kylo's got a lot to say.
I feel like this episode was trying to be a let's see both sides, but I feel like it's just terrorism bad.
Okay, so here's the thing. Background corner time. Within the like biggest parts of Trek, so like Ronald D. Moore, Michael Piller, Brandon Braga, none of them had anything positive to say about the episode. What they said was that we started with an idea, and that is, let's talk about terrorism, and they brought absolutely nothing new to the table in the discussion. And they just feel like it was a complete failure. It's the fact that some of the themes are actually quite similar to the previous episode definitely doesn't no favors, because the previous episode did those themes better when talking about like rebellion and whatnot. Whereas here we have a man whose cause we don't understand. We're just told generically, freedom is good, and they want some sort of independence, and you guys should want independence too. I don't know why. I'm not really sure what he wants independence from. I don't know what's so bad about the other government. Mm-hmm. Everything bad that I'm seeing about that government is a direct result of them responding to terrorist attacks, which I'm not excusing them. They're acting like fascists, but from everything that person is saying, that the policewoman saying with the terrible fasci outfit, it sounds like this is not what they want to do in the first place. It's what they are doing because they're scared and desperate.
Yeah, because they never really, like Riker does say a few things about, like, what your methods are kind of fucked up here.
Yes.
But they don't really get into it that much in the episode.
No, not at all.
And in the end of the episode, he's like, oh, like, you know, maybe things start to change with one little boy, like, putting down his gun, but says nothing about, like, what part their government is playing in this.
Yeah.
You know?
I think that episode is meaningful within the context of the episode, but it doesn't say anything.
Yeah. Because, like, so the parallels is obviously, like, this wasn't... Actually, this would have been starting to be a thing. Is, like, America and Canada with, like, you know, Muslim terrorists.
Yeah, okay. That probably would have been one of the reasons they were talking about things like this then. Yeah, that's true.
So, like, they make some allusions to, like, how the cops are also bad. When she's like, these aren't people, these are animals, right? Which is like, how people justify doing a lot of horrible things. It's like, oh, these aren't actually people, right? They dehumanize them.
Yeah. Oddly enough, the only one who I think makes a concentrated effort within the episode to actually, like, understand the perspective of those kinds of tactics in the first place is Data. And he's the one in throughout the episode, he's the one most disconnected from what's going on because he's just spending his time on the ship.
Yeah.
And, like, they had a real opportunity to give Beverly the chance to explore that same theme from the perspective of someone who's watching it, but she is, like, basically against them from moment one and doesn't really change that perspective much.
Yeah.
Aside from the fact that she has a different idea about how to stop them than Picard.
Yeah. Yeah, like, she has some, like, she obviously has some empathy for them because,
oh yeah,
like, she's just that kind of badass. Yeah, so, sorry, the point I meant to make about the parallel between, like, this and the States with Muslim terrorists, and I don't want to generalize, like, I mean, terrorists from, like, Muslim majority countries, you know, is that didn't come out of nowhere. That didn't come, like, that wasn't just, like, the U.S. was sitting here doing nothing, and then they're like, we hate you. It's, like, no, the U.S. actually did horrible shit that breeded this justifiable anger towards them, and then people, like, took advantage of that and were like,
I mean,
hey,
they quite literally funded the same insurgency groups that ended up becoming their enemies in the end.
Yeah, exactly. And, like, the U.S. has, you know, sold weapons to sketchy groups, has, you know, orchestrated coups and, like, changes in governments to governments that would work with them more and shit. Like, the U.S. has done a lot of, like, they're one of the reasons why, like, one of the big reasons why the Middle East is so unstable.
Yes.
And, like, this is history that, like, doesn't get taught, like, in school and shit. But, like, but yeah, so that hatred for America, and, like, here's the thing, I'm not letting Canada off the hook with this. It's just, like, I know more examples of the United States. Like, Canada's definitely has their hand in this as well.
Yeah, we are complacent at the very least.
Yeah, like, that anger, like, comes from justifiable places. And so you understand how people get radicalized against it, right? Like, and the way to fix it is, like, not, at least in my opinion, is not necessarily to just be, like, war and, like, torture and, you know, all the shit that they've been doing, like, oppression and like, fucking spying on your citizens and all that shit, like, all the shit that was, like, that's happened, like, you know, the fucking Patriot Act and like all this shit from the Bush era, the Bush Jr. era, which is, like, the era I'm most familiar with, because this happened in other eras too. But, like, yeah, like, it's not that, it's, like, actually, like, hey, maybe deal with the atrocities you committed. that
too.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, like you were saying, they don't really go into why these people are rebelling, why these people are committing acts of violence. Like, Data makes a point of, like, if all other peaceful methods are, have run their course, like, then is not violence the answer? Because it seems to work a lot, which, historically is correct.
Yeah, it is very correct.
But they make no effort to they don't tell us if they've tried negotiating before. Like, they don't tell us, like, what methods have been tried previously. They don't tell us why independence is so important to them. They other than saying, like, a few things about how, like, the police are kind of doing some fucked up stuff, they don't really get into, like, what this government is doing that they want independence from,
Mm-hmm.
And
actually,
I feel like
quick
I've lost the
interjection.
point of this. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so while we're on that topic, regarding specifically independence, there is a reference that Data makes in this episode to a future event in their timeline, which
I laughed.
The
so
Irish
hard.
reunification of 2024.
Guys, get ready for it.
Yes, so a little background on that. This episode was banned from being shown in Ireland until 2007.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, this was 1990. This was like
Oh yeah, the troubles.
the
are still
fucking
happening.
troubles are like red hot.
Yep.
Yeah.
Man,
Which is probably why they used it as an example, because it was like it was the height of like the Irish.
Yes.
Would it be called did they call it? Is it officially called the Civil War, or?
I don't know, to be honest.
Anyway, in like the sort of, this was the height of the troubles in Ireland, so it stands to reason that they'd be like, because they're like a hopeful future kind of deal, to be like, oh, like this will eventually heal,
Yeah. On that note, while it took 15 years to actually be shown in Ireland, it wasn't shown on Irish television. It was shown on BBC, which is broadcast in Republic of Ireland. So, yeah.
Yeah.
It has been shown on like other networks and whatnot, but with that reference to it edited out.
Yeah. I can definitely feel like, because even today, like, people say like the troubles are over, but they are not. Like,
No.
that it's not like as outwardly violent and stuff. It's like not active.
No, but it wasn't resolved.
Yeah, it was never resolved. It's essentially like a Cold War going on.
Yeah.
That's why the whole Brexit thing was extra complicated, because part of the I don't remember the name for it, but the big treaty they signed that like kind of ended like sort of all like the major violence and stuff.
Yes.
Anyway, part of that treaty was that there would be no border guards and stuff, and there would be no there would just be nothing at the border, because that was like that's just a target, right?
Yeah.
So when Brexit came along, basically because Ireland, the Republic of Ireland, is part of the EU, and Northern Ireland is part of the UK, which the UK voted to leave the EU, that it's very complicated, but essentially that meant that because of like the laws and stuff, that meant that a border would have to go up between Northern Ireland and the Republic of Ireland, which would have been a fucking disaster, because I saw these interviews with people who like live near the border and stuff, and people from Northern Ireland and the Republic of Ireland saying like, if there's like booths, if there's a border there, people are shooting at them, guaranteed.
Yeah.
Like, that's just going to become a target, and that's going to spark a lot of trouble, and that's why that was like one of the big complications. And the thing is, they knew they were doing this for like, you know, a couple years, and they never made a plan for it until the very last minute.
Yep.
It was so stupid. I mean, so much about Brexit is fucking stupid, but
Yeah, of course.
yeah. Anyway, sorry to get off on that tangent. But yeah,
It's okay. I think it's a good tangent.
Yeah, I can see how referencing reunification would probably might spark some shit.
Yeah. Or at the very least, they wouldn't want to even come close to trying to spark some shit. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
I just like that this is supposed to take place 3 years from now.
Yeah.
I just when he said that, I just was like, wait, what?
Yeah. I
Yeah,
mean,
I'm sure in my lefty Star Trek groups, we're all going to be celebrating the Irish unification of 2024 in 2024.
And the thing is, like, interestingly enough, after Brexit, there was some rumblings that Ireland might reunify because Northern Ireland voted overwhelmingly to stay a part of the EU, and
Yep.
people were super pissed off. So there was speculation that Northern Ireland might join the Republic of Ireland in order to become a part of the EU, to stay a part
Yes.
of it. I don't think anything ever came out of that, but
No, people they don't want to deal with change.
yeah. That's also, like, reunification, like, there's a lot that needs to happen probably before reunification can happen.
Very much so, yes.
Yeah. Yeah, so I just wish they'd, like, because I'm a generally nonviolent person. Like, I wouldn't classify myself a pacifist.
You don't have a violent personality.
Yeah.
Nice.
That's what Troy would classify you as.
The thing is like, I used to be a lot more like, violence is never the answer. Like we can do this without violence. Like, there's no reason for it, and that kind of stuff. And like, as I get older and I see the shit that's going on in the world, and like, you know, I see what's working and what's not, and what's getting people's attention and stuff, and I'm like, I'm leaning more towards, like, you know, not
Light
that
violence.
Yeah, not that violence is
sprinkle.
necessary, but like,
A sprinkle of violence.
yeah, like, sometimes you do need to do violent things, and I don't mean like you said, like, there is a limit, right? Like, I don't mean like killing people or like maiming them or shit like that, but like, you know, toss a few rocks in windows and fuck shit up, you know, that kind of thing. Like, I totally don't see an issue with that the way I used to, because it's like, sometimes you really do have to do that in order to get shit to change. Like, one of the historical examples I can think of is the suffrage movement, like when women were trying to get the right to vote. I mean, white women, let's be honest. A lot of people, like, what's shown in media and what's taught is mostly about, like, the peaceful protests and, like, you know, general, like, sex strikes and, like, all this, like, what we'd think of as, like, peaceful protests and stuff. And the thing is like, that's not the truth. There was a lot of violence associated with it. Like, they fucking like bombed, like, I don't remember what they bombed. I think it was like some civic buildings or something, and like, yeah, they committed a lot of acts of violence, and that, you know, contributed to them achieving their goals. So, yeah, I mean, I think sometimes violence is necessary.
I think that, what do you call it? There is a, how do I start this out? Okay. Years ago, I used to waste a lot of time on the internet arguing with Gamergaters. I still waste a lot of time on the internet, just not arguing with Gamergaters. And there was a phrase that somebody, I don't know who, uttered, posted on Twitter, something like that, which was no bad tactics, only bad targets. And the Gamergaters jumped on this phrase to talk about how, the anti-Gamergaters will do anything. Look at them. This is them saying that they'll go to any lengths to. And I don't know. They really hated the phrase, and they decided that some sort of like ideological purity is the only way to go. But like, that's not how things work. Realistically, not. That there isn't like a single thing that you can do that works in every single situation that you apply it to.
Yeah.
And I like the phrase because, yeah, sometimes you gotta fuck shit up.
Yeah.
Sometimes, sadly, someone has to die for your ideals. And it's fucking terrible because, like, people in general are so fucking pig-headed, and people in general are so desperate to cling to power and authority in many cases.
Yeah.
That there isn't a way out aside from doing the worst. And that's why I like the phrase, because nothing should be off the table ever. Not ever. Nothing should be off the table for every situation. Now that doesn't mean we shouldn't have laws or anything like that.
It's circumstantial.
It means that idealism towards like a particular thought process that like this is a thing that I don't believe us as a group should ever do in order to achieve our ends, it's too idealist, and it's not realistic in the world that we live in.
Yeah.
And we see evidence of that every single day, unfortunately.
Yeah. And like a good example of fucking shit up that I can think of is a while back, I don't remember how long ago it was, but there was an ICE office somewhere in the States, and there was like a long weekend or something. I forget like the actual circumstances, but the offices were basically like empty for the weekend, and some people had managed to like, I forget, they'd like turned the water on, or they put hoses in the windows or something and like flooded it and stuff, and completely destroyed the office basically, so that they couldn't use it, and they couldn't, use it to fucking, deport people and, arrest immigrants and shit, Yes. So like that's the kind of thing, and like, this might seem insane, but like, I don't give a shit anymore if people loot, because oftentimes that when you see what people are stealing, a lot of times it's basic needs. It's food, it's shit they could use, and like, yeah, it's like, I don't give a shit if Target gets their window smashed in or whatever. Like, I don't care. I obviously, like, I feel bad for like small businesses and stuff that like get shit fucked up, and so like, it's circumstantial, right? Like, it's complicated, basically. Like, if it's like if it's like a big store or a big chain or whatever, I don't give two fucks. I'm like, oh well, as long as like no one's taking it out on employees and stuff.
Corporation property damage.
Yeah. I have a problem with it if it's like a small business and like, and they're not pieces of shit. Like, if it's like a small hardware store who like that's run by like a white supremacist, and like, fuck you, I don't care about your store. But yeah, that's where it gets complicated. But like, I heard it explained, or someone was talking about it, and I kind of agreed with what they said, in that like, some of that, when riots happen and the looting happens, it's basically like, it's coming from this place of frustration that like, so much of what they need to survive, or so much of the joy that they could have in life, that I think everyone deserves to have in life, is beaten down and taken away and withheld. That it's just like, you know what, there's no point in me maintaining the social contract because I don't get anything out of it.
Right.
Like, all I get is suffering from it. So, you know what, I'm gonna take a pair of shoes, you know? And yeah. But also, looting is like, when riots happen, looting is like such a tiny part of what's happening, but they always focus on it because they want to demonize what's happening.
Well, also because we live in a society. We live in a society that that prioritizes property rights.
Yes, absolutely.
And losing property is something that everybody can relate to, and therefore it makes a real good scapegoat to focus on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. And it portrays them as just greedy and not actually caring about what they say their cause is.
Yes.
That sort of thing. And so this might be a weird example to give, but because this wasn't a riot. In the 70s, I think, there was a huge blackout on the East Coast of North America, or at least the States. It was the 70s or 80s, I think. I can't remember. But what happened is a lot of electronic stores got robbed and stuff. And a lot more people ended up with turntables and music equipment than would normally have gained access to it. And from that birthed, like, the hip-hop revolution. Like, this whole new genre was created because more people got access to musical equipment. So, like, you see what can happen when people are just given access to these things, you know? Like, this is, it's not 100% related, but I always think about that, how, like, this blackout, because people were able to, I mean, steal shit, you know? I mean, having a turntable is not a basic necessity or whatever, but it just...
No, not at all.
It just shows how, like, a lot of issues are a matter of access. You know? Anyway, I think I'm getting, like, farther from the point. Yeah, anyway, I wish they'd explored more the motivations behind the terrorists and more of what the government was doing. Like, you can still, like, I think there was a way to do this where it was, like, more of a hard question. Like, it was more of a difficult thing to ponder. Because the impression this episode gave me was that the terrorists were in the wrong, ultimately.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah, the episode definitely took that stance. Oh, yeah. Actually, regarding that, if I could creep back into background corner for a moment.
Yeah, definitely. Sorry. I think I, like, my mouth just kept going, and I'm like, I think I've lost my point in everything.
That's fair.
So go ahead.
So yeah, in background corner again. So the writer, whom I have mentioned before, a woman named Melinda Snodgrass, which is such a terrible last name.
Yeah,
that poor woman.
Very unfortunate.
Yeah, but anyway, so she wrote the episode and was told after writing it that they didn't like the allegory that she went for, and they wanted her to change it to a different allegory instead. So the allegory that she went for is that she wrote an episode that was a bit of a parallel to the American Revolution. And you can still see inklings of that in this.
Yeah, with the George Washington reference and everything.
Yeah, and the what do you call it? The rebels' desire for independence and whatnot. But they told her to aim for something more like the Troubles that are happening right now. And she didn't want to. So I don't know if this is like a half-assed attempt at it, or if she just didn't have the amount of time that she needed in order to take the story that she had already written and direct it somewhere completely differently. Because, I mean, let's face it, when it comes to Americans discussing the American Revolution, there's literally only one side that's correct, ever.
Yeah.
And that's fine. Like, I get it. I understand that. But they don't take a two-sided approach to that. And that's kind of what this episode is. It's not taking a two-sided approach to anything. Looking deeply enough to explore why it's more complicated than people may think it.
Yeah. And there's an example where, maybe the rebels weren't exactly correct.
Yep.
Not saying that the British are great or anything.
No.
And, taxation without representation is bad.
Mm-hmm.
However, one thing that complicates things, in my opinion, is that by this point, Britain had, or the United Kingdom had, the British Empire had abolished slavery and stuff. And America did not want to do that.
Okay, so while it may have happened in the UK, it hadn't been banned throughout the Empire yet.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it didn't get banned
Yeah.
through the British Empire, I think, until the 1810s or 1820s, one of the two.
Yeah.
It
But
might have even been the 1830s now that I think of it. It was before the Americans did, obviously, but
Yeah.
it was still, it wasn't, it was just in Britain at the time that it was banned.
yeah. I think that was a factor, though. And it also, really puts a weird feeling, or weird perspective on black revolutionary soldiers. It's like, wow,
Yes.
really? Yeah. Everything's complicated. It's like, yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
especially if you
Man,
think
I-
about the fact that there's a treasure map on the back of the Declaration of Independence.
yeah.
That makes things way more complicated.
I've just
So
been,
who found the treasure?
Nicolas Cage.
uh,
But it really, and Sean Bean.
I've just been
Oh, that's great.
I've just been learning recently more about just how integral slavery was to the economy of the United States.
Oh,
Like-
yes, it was extremely important.
I was looking into it. It was worth billions of dollars.
Yep,
And that's billions of dollars in that era's money,
yep.
which is insane. That's not adjusted for inflation.
But that's also why the British refused to take a side
Yeah.
when the Civil War came.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of countries benefited from that, because,
Yep.
The states obviously use that to export shit.
Of course.
But yeah, it's insane how, sorry, I don't want to get off on a slavery thing, but it just, seeing more shit about it and just when black people are trying to cause I got on this genealogy kind of hole, and when a lot of times when black people are looking for their genealogy, figuring out where they come from, a lot of their ancestors weren't taught to read and write, so the only records of them are bills of sales.
Yep.
Which, imagine the only evidence you lived is that someone has a receipt for you,
Yeah.
and that's messed up.
On that note, though, if that's something that that you don't have to keep this part in the episode, but if that's something that you've been looking into lately, there is a great YouTuber that I got into watching a bunch of last year, I think, and he is he's big on what do you call it, on the history specifically of the South, and his research or his very well researched videos, which are somewhat comedic. He calls them checkmate Lincolnites. They present arguments from South defender kinds of people nowadays.
Yeah.
And then he goes into the facts of why that's actually an incorrect perspective, and here's what actually happened. And He goes into a lot of the arguments regarding, slavery wasn't actually all that profitable. It wasn't the biggest thing in the world. It was just a little thing. Don't worry about it. And yeah, he explains all of that through real well, and it's really interesting to see because I've gotten into looking into a lot of historians, specifically over that era. And the problem I find with most, especially YouTube historians, is they're far more interested in talking about the specifics of battles than they are talking about like the political ramifications of what was going on. And that is, while he is extremely knowledgeable when it comes to battles, he's literally a Civil War reenactor, like as a job. That's not what he talks about in his videos at all. He's talking about social and political ramifications, and that's the shit that I'm interested in.
Yeah. That is also one of my issues with history. It's so focused on battles and stuff, and who won and the tactics and whatever. And it's like, no, I want to know about the politics. A series I really liked was, I forget what it's called, but if you know Hank Green and John Green on YouTube.
I don't.
They're kind of famous YouTubers. They're brothers. John Green is a writer. He writes essentially cheesy YA books, and his brother is kind of an educator and stuff. And they have this they had this series where they sort of cover different topics, and one was world history, and they said they decided to do it from the perspective of control of resources, which I thought was a really interesting way to look at history.
Yeah, that's a very different approach.
Yeah, because I think he got into one of the conflicts between Japan and China was to control Manchuria, and Manchuria is a place where this was a while ago, so I might be remembering things slightly wrong. But if I remember correctly, Manchuria is a place where a lot of rice is grown and stuff. And it's a very fertile part of the world. So they wanted control of that because they wanted access to those resources,
Right.
That kind of thing. And also, the Germans trying to get control of the Rhineland and stuff. Is there was this especially for World War II, there was this view of you had to be completely self-sufficient as a country. There was because one of the things was rejection of globalism, right? It's make yourself self-sufficient so you don't have to depend on anybody else. So getting control of the Rhineland was this is just going to give us access to more resources so we don't have to trade with anybody, Yeah, and sorry, to sort of link this back to sort of rebellion and stuff, the slavery bit, it's look at our perspectives on slave revolts and stuff. And a lot of times those were... a lot of times they're talked about as the slaves being the bad guys,
yes.
Murdering people and all this stuff, when it's I think they had a very good reason, and I feel their violence was justified.
Those slaves murdered their owners. Can you imagine how terrible that is? Can you imagine how terrible it is being owned?
Yeah. I mean, you will if you play Tetris against me. Boom. I'm sorry. That's so bad.
Yeah, that was pretty bad. Please keep that in the episode.
Maggie, if it makes you feel better, when in my head, I was what about pwned? But then it's is that too much? And then no,
I
apparently
didn't notice
not.
in the show you pronounce own as own, but my friends and I say pwn. What gives?
Anyway, sorry, Jeff. I think I keep interrupting you, but go ahead.
No, it's okay. I think we have probably reached the point where we would just hang out and have a conversation that isn't related to the episode in any way anymore. Anyway.
Yeah. So, okay. Does anyone have anything they want to bring up about the episode that they haven't gotten a chance to yet?
Yeah. So it's just one bit. I find it interesting that, like, Kylo Ren basically, it felt like he was calling Dr. C out on her privilege of being a part of the Federation.
Yeah.
He was,
At one
which
point.
is accurate.
Yeah, so he's like, he says, how much innocent blood has been spilled for the cause of freedom in the history of your Federation, Doctor? How many good and noble societies have bombed civilians in war, have wiped out whole cities? And now that you enjoy the comfort that has come from their battles, their killing, you frown on my immorality? I am willing to die for my freedom, Doctor, and in the finest tradition of your own great civilization, I'm willing to kill for it, too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, I think, like, there is an argument to be made there. I think that happens a lot where people benefit from the violence and then, you know, try to pretend like they haven't or they have nothing to do with it.
If only the episode has spent more time talking about that.
Yeah, and another thing the episode, like, they touch on, but they don't really get into it, is how the Federation is literally picking sides. Like, they don't think they are, but they are, because they are supplying the established government with supplies and stuff. So they're helping them fight back the rebellion. And I felt disappointed that wasn't addressed. Like, Picard, like, I was hoping that, like, at the end, Picard would be like, you know, maybe we should really reevaluate our trading relationship with them, and, like, you know, maybe he has a point that we are, you know, unintentionally, like, picking a side and, like, that kind of thing. I just wish they'd gone into that more, about how the Federation does actually, you know, whether they want to admit it or not, they are kind of involved in this conflict. Like, you're dealing with that government. Like, you know, you can't have your cake and eat it too.
Yeah. So while the episode failed in its messaging, I thought that it was actually pretty well edited. Specifically, the opening teaser was actually fucking fantastic.
Yes,
like
yeah,
after
I thought that was really
I
good.
hadn't seen the episode in ages, and I was just like, oh man, this is great so far. Holy crap! Like, if this is setting the standard for what the episode is going to be like, I had just forgotten how good this one is. And then I continued the episode and was just like, oh no, there's a reason I forgot.
Yeah.
But yeah,
and yeah,
the soundtrack was a fucking banger.
Yeah, and kudos to Dr. Crusher for being a fucking badass and standing by her morals.
Yes. All right, shall we go into favorite moments then?
Yes, let's.
I liked at the beginning when everybody was like, Dr. C, you gotta beam up to the ship, and she refuses, and then Riker's like, I don't want to be in the transporter room to greet her.
That was a pretty good moment.
I don't know, honestly, Kylo Ren was like kind of a pain in the ass, but also he had some good lines.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I did like the, what's it called? You should be drawing, not killing people. And then he's like, I can do both. God, my notes are a mess. The way I read the quote earlier, I was like, I sound like I can't read or something because I wrote my notes so badly. I need to write neater. I liked that Dr. C and Picard got a moment, but like it's not satisfying because of the blackout.
Yeah. I'm sorry, there's going to be a lot of that.
Yeah, they never get their moment. Oh, until no, never mind. They technically do.
Yeah. I hope you're a fan of slow burn.
Yes, as long as it's okay. Here's the thing: I can get behind a slow burn if like there's a satisfying ending, which now I'm worried there isn't, because I've been burned before. There was a show I watched in which you're waiting for the two characters to get together forever, and then they got together off camera, and then it's like, surprise, they're pregnant, and it's like, wait, what the fuck just happened?
Yeah.
And I was livid. I stopped watching the show right there and then.
Yeah. I
Good.
get like that with every single instance of queer baiting. It's like, oh, fuck you.
There was, okay, this is very tiny, but Dr. C rolls her eyes when Kylo Ren compares himself to George Washington. She's just like, oh, please.
Yeah.
I'm sorry to both of you. The best part of the episode, hands down, was Picard punch.
Yes.
Oh yeah, that was intense.
Yeah. That was so hilarious.
Yes.
Oh, I guess I also did like that. For like a good chunk of time, Dr. C didn't say anything to Kylo Ren. She just stared at him.
Mm-hmm.
With like a half smile.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess that's it for me. Not a lot of favorite parts.
I think my favorite thing was, like Dr. Crusher like refusing to leave after the bombing, being like, I have to help these people. And I also liked the little side bit with Data where he's like, if terrorism's so bad, why does it work?
Yep.
And it's like, good question.
Yeah.
That they don't even endeavor to answer in this episode.
Terrorism is an effective way to promote political change. Let's ignore that point from now on.
Yeah. And that's my only bit from the episode. All right, so with that, let's get on to predictions for the next episode.
Excellent.
So, Dory, the next episode is called Deja Q.
I don't know why I got so excited. Q makes me mad, and I don't.
Mad and happy. Nappy, if you will.
I don't know. I have issues with Q, but at the same time, he is like a recurring, I don't want to say friendly phase, but like, I know
It's like
we're
a
going to get
love-hate thing.
Yeah, I know we're going to get an interesting, well, I think that we're going to get an interesting episode of Q's involved because that guy just, I don't know. Oh gosh, I hope this means I want to see him and Guinan face off again. I miss Guinan. We haven't seen her in quite a while.
Yeah.
Don't worry, she always comes back.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's good.
All right, so...
Deja Q.
Yeah.
That's a very funny title.
Yeah. So,
I love a pun.
Yeah. So, the tidbit for this episode is...
Sorry, wait, that's not a pun, is it? No, right? Wait,
Yeah, it
that
is.
a pun?
Deja vu.
Yeah,
Deja Q.
Okay. Yeah, for a second I forgot what a pun was, and
Yeah.
okay,
It's
sorry, go ahead.
word play. They always make a terrible pun with Q in episodes that Q is in.
I mean, that's fitting in a
Yeah.
way.
Yeah.
No, sorry, not always, just usually.
Oh, really? Oh, yeah, I guess
well,
that's true.
Yeah, there's 3 Q episodes with no Q in the name.
Oh. Okay.
Oh, so it's a surprise then. Ooh.
Well, one of them was the first episode.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, yeah, so your tidbit for this episode is that Q comes aboard the Enterprise because he's been stripped of his powers.
Oh. Okay. I don't want to say comeuppance, but oh, I hope Picard gets to laugh really hard at him. Okay, I don't know why, but you know what I just pictured? Like, they're just kind of like, the gang is like, just, spacing it up, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
And as one does. And they like get like there's like a beacon or something, like a signal, and they're like, oh, there's like a distress signal, let's go to it. And then they but they can't like communicate, like they try to communicate with the vessel, but they can't get through, so they're like, YOLO, let's just bring them aboard.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's like, surprise, it's Q. And Picard's like, ugh, what the fuck? And maybe, why am I giving a play-by-play? That's not what we're looking for. Just like writing the episode myself. Okay, so I think so Q's on the ship, then maybe so he's obviously done something bad. I would assume to have been like, get his powers taken away. So maybe he has to accomplish something in order to get them back. And he's like, who's an honorable person that I can force me to help do my goal? And he's like, PICARD, or PICARD, as he says. PICARD. And yeah, so he shows up and he's like, listen, you gotta help me. And Picard's like, fuck, damn it. If it'll get you away from us, then yeah. But he agrees to help Q because he's like, you will help us some way, no questions asked. Yeah, it's he's gonna do you a favor, we're gonna do you a favor.
Okay.
Whatever, you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Is that enough for a prediction?
Yeah, I think so. Oh.
Maybe I'll just add, there's like, maybe it's just like a really annoying specific thing that has to be done. But maybe Q only gives Picard half the information because he's not going to want to do it if I like tell him what the super specifics are. Yeah, that's what I'm going with.
Okay, cool. Well, if you'd like to see if Dory's correct, watch along with us and join us for the next episode of Fully Functional, a TNG podcast.
Goodbye.